Hi, this is Arun from arunsyoga.in. I'm a software engineer who mostly work with Node.js, PHP, and other backend technologies. And I'm an open source contributor as well. I'm a tantric by birth in a family which is passing tantric wisdom from generations to generations from past 2000 years of legacy and got lucky to travel across India and got chances to study under various gurus from different backgrounds and disciplines. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in. Here I'm helping you to design a divine lifestyle which is based on Vedic astrology, tantra and other yogic system of understanding. Hello. Today we are having a special guest. Her name is Sheelah. She is into investigating spiritual pathways and timing your personal development. Her spiritual name is Amadai. She is a psychic and an astrologer. Today's podcast is a special one because this podcast she is reading my chart based on astrological understandings of East. According to the discussions which we had, we are sure that we are going to do something in the direction of clubbing Vedic and Western astrology together. However, let's begin our podcast series, episode number 1, Astrology of East and West. And the link which help you to connect with her is being given in the description of this particular podcast. So here we are having Sheila. She's all the way from France. She all the time I'm creating the horoscope for the people on my podcast, but today she's gonna read my podcast for all of us. Yeah, Sheila, can you just explain? I mean, just a few words about you, who you are, and things like that, and we can just straight up to go to my horoscope chart.
Okay, so I'm not in France. I'm in England.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is that I've been an astrologer for more than 30 years. I'm trying to think, must be 40. Oh, it's nearly 40 years. So I started learning astrology when I was in my late 20s, about your age now, a bit younger. I do a very different kind of astrology. I don't do Vedic astrology. I work with a Placidus system, and I think it's fascinating to talk to a Vedic astrologer because I wonder if there will be very similar stories that we come up with, even though we have a completely different chart to look at. I wish that I had the technical ability to show your chart on here, but I don't have that, but I'll have to learn how to do that at some point. So I'll talk about you and say what I see for you. I think it's very interesting to meet you at this time and talk about what's going on in your life, because strangely, there's a similar thing going to be going on with me for next year, and we'll be having similar experiences, which is strange. Synchronicity, we call it. So in this chart, I see that you have Jupiter in the 6th house. And because you have what's called your midheaven in Sagittarius, and that's the sign that's associated with Jupiter, it means that you're very much a person who likes to learn, likes to expand your ideas, and you will learn a lot more from talking to people from different cultures, different countries. All of that you really, really enjoy. And because Jupiter is very well placed in the chart that I have, it means that actually you're going to be quite lucky with work. And it links in a strange way with your relationship with your mother, because I feel like your mother has been in your life a very important influence in terms of encouraging you to be open-minded and expand yourself. And I see her as quite there's a kind of a dramatic openness about her. And the relationship with your father is, I feel, looking at this, has been a very strong influence on you spiritually, because I feel like your father communicates, and your communication with him is a very kind of gentle, open-minded, and very, very compassionate and kind of relationship, and it's formed your personality in a very good way. I think it's very interesting to look at your relationships with women as well, because I feel like you're a real free spirit. And it's very interesting to me because I have Uranus, the planet Uranus, what we call sextile, 60 degrees away from my Venus. And you have your Venus and Uranus connected in what's called a trine. So both of us are very, I know a lot of men, you know a lot of women, and they always are my friends, and I like that, and I'm a kind of free spirit, and so are you. But particularly for you, you've got Uranus in the 11th house, which means that it is the house of friendships and groups. So women that you meet are very, very influential in your life, and you like that, you enjoy that. And also because Venus is in Aries in your chart, it does mean that you get a kind of power out of it, and you don't want somebody, I'm trying to put this in a subtle way, you don't want somebody confining you or saying, well, why are you speaking to all these women? I mean, it's not for you. You really enjoy speaking to women. And I was looking at your website actually after I discovered this the other day, and I noticed that you had a few podcasts or films of other women from all over the world. So I started laughing. I just thought, oh, there we are. He's doing it again. So that's going to be you for the whole of your life. But at the same time as this very kind of adventurous side to you, you also have a very solitary side, because in the chart that I did, you have Saturn in the 12th house, and that means that you need time alone. It's very important to you, and if you don't have that alone time, you feel a little bit overloaded, and you need to kind of defrag, if you know what I mean. You need to just clear your mind and be solitary. And some people with this sign in their chart suffer a little bit from depression, but I don't know if that's the case with you. I just know that you find too much activity, too many people for too long, too much. You just have to sometimes shut your door and stay alone. And that's going to be a very significant part of your life again, over the next 2 years, 2.5 years. So I had a look in what we call an ephemeris, which is where all the planets are at the moment. And there are two things that I noticed that are very significant for you. So the first thing is that there was an eclipsed new moon in Sagittarius 2 days ago. And in the chart that I did, it touches, that eclipse new moon touches what we call the midheaven in your chart, which means your career, your outer persona, your connection with the outside world. And it also happened to touch my midheaven in my chart, but yours is something like, I can't remember now, it's approximately 5 degrees of Sagittarius, and mine is a bit further on into Sagittarius, but it affected both of us. So I'd be interested to find out what happened to you 2 nights ago, because I couldn't sleep, and I felt really kind of, I felt quite jumbled up. I felt quite emotional, and overwhelmed. And yes, at the same time, very excited, because I started to be involved with a new TV station about 6 weeks ago. And there's a lot of work coming in, which I'm not being paid for, because this TV station is actually promoting world peace and a new world order. So it's about debate, and it's about new politics, new economics, all that kind of thing. And I was feeling shaky because I'm not getting any younger, and it's a big challenge for me. And the man who runs the TV station had asked me to translate, not from Danish, he's a Danish man. He'd written in English, but he didn't like his English in writing. So he asked me to change the grammatical syntax and everything so that it would be easier for people all over the world to read. So I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, retyping what he'd written. So it was a big night for me, emotionally and for work. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing that I'm going to be involved in this thing. I'm talking to you. I've been talking to lots of other people on Zoom. So it was like, oh my God, I really believe that this is so important. But the enormity of it really affected me. So I wouldn't be surprised if you felt very similar to me about 2 days ago, because that new moon in Sagittarius is very, very powerful for both of us. The other thing that's going to happen for both of us, strangely, coincidentally, is that in the new year, it's going to start a little bit sooner with you, maybe about a month earlier. So Saturn moves into your 12th house. So it also moves into mine, but it moves into my 12th house in about the end of January. And for you, it's from the 5th of January. And that means you've already got Saturn in your 12th house. We call it natally. So that's the bit of you that likes to be solitary and, you know, shut out the world. So you're going to have more of that. But I don't see it as being a negative thing. I see it as you will be communicating and doing the things that you always do, but you'll also maybe be thinking about writing and really kind of centering yourself and spending time alone in order to be more productive. And you're going to have 2.5 years of that. And also, coincidentally, I've been thinking about doing more writing, and I can feel it already starting in my head, all my ideas and the things I want to write about. And only yesterday, I had somebody who wanted a horoscope done, and he's been writing about very similar things to what I've been want to write about. But I want to do it from a slightly different angle. So it kind of confirmed in my mind, oh yes, writing is the thing. So when Saturn moves into your 12th house, you're going to notice the effect of that around the 5th of January, and then it will go for 2.5 years. And it's really then that you're kind of preparing and sorting yourself out, ready for a sort of beginning in the outside world, definitely to do with work and how you're going to progress. So quite often what people do when they have a Saturn transit like this is that they not only do they tidy up their mind, but they tidy up their cupboards, they get rid of all their rubbish, all the things they don't want. And it's actually preferable and more pleasant to stay in clearing out a cupboard than speaking to a human being. It's just a time for finishing off a cycle in your life, ready to start a new cycle. And I remember saying to you when I first spoke to you, you know, your website has got so much in it. It's so busy. And I just wonder if you might spend a bit of time tidying that up as well, because there's so much in it that it's hard to know where to go, first of all. You know, I'm thinking, wow, this is so huge. I can't take it all in. So maybe you'll think about doing that, as it occurred to me. As you're much younger than me, I can remember the first time that I went through a Saturn transit of my 12th house, because it only happens every 28 years. and there were people that passed away, very important people in my life that died at that time. So I'm not going to make a very negative kind of prediction to you, but I wouldn't be surprised that over the next 2.5 years, you might be attending funerals and thinking about very deeply about important people in your life. That's all I want to say. I'd be interested to see how that pans out for you. Certainly for me, at my age, I've had several friends dying in the last year, and they haven't died in the pandemic. They just died because they were getting old. But I'm wondering how this Saturn transit is going to work for me. And does that mean that other friends are going to pass away? I don't know. So it's a time, Saturn in the 12th house is often a time where you consider the really deep issues of life. It's not a light-hearted time. You know, it's a time where you realize on a spiritual level that we walk alone. You know, we're born alone. Even if we're a twin, we arrive separately and we die on our own. These are very deep things to think about. So what else do I want to say? In your chart, you have Saturn in the 12th house natally, as I just described, and Uranus in the 11th house. And interestingly, they're in what we call mutual reception. I don't know if you understand that. I don't know if Vedic astrologers even think that way. But Saturn, I'm just going to look at it because I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something like Saturn is in Aquarius, which is the sign of Uranus, and Uranus is in Capricorn, which is the sign of Saturn. So they swap over, and it means they're in mutual reception. So I found that interesting because I think that your destiny is to start groups of people who want to think about spiritual things. And I know already that you're doing something to do with education, which fits in with your Jupiter in Sagittarius. And I do see you being really successful with that. But I don't think it's the only thing that you're going to be doing. I think you'll be very good at bringing people together in groups, maybe meditating, talking about spiritual ideas, stuff like that. It's definitely part of your destiny. But it also means, because your Saturn is placed in the 12th house in Aquarius, that you will also need periods of time where you learn so much from other people that you have to go away and just kind of think it all through, because your whole life you're going to be rethinking your ideas and thinking, oh my God, the thing I was thinking about, that person had that view, and I need to shift my idea just a little bit. You know, you're going to have a very interesting life in terms of learning and learning and learning and more learning. And I did actually have a look to see when you will have completed your learning, or where you'll think, well, yeah, wow, if I look back. And actually, you're going to be in your early 60s. So the whole of your life up to the age of 62 is going to be a massive spiritual journey. And you will look back, and I'll be long gone by the time you're 62, I'm sure. But I hope you remember that I told you this, and you'll say, she was right. I thought I was learning so much, but now I look back and I didn't know anything like the stuff I know now. So I can see you smiling, because that sounds like a nice idea to you, knowing what you're like. So what else do I want to say? Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about you is that because you've got this interesting Uranus-Venus connection, especially with women, that actually you believe in universal love. You actually don't really understand how somebody could be kind of old-fashioned and traditional and say, well, you know, you only love me, how could you love that other person as well? And I don't mean in a sexual sense, I just mean that you just understand universal love. It's obvious to you, just the way it is. But not everybody thinks that way. I understand it because I'm very similar, but you know, I know that I was talking to some school friends this morning on Zoom, so I've known them since I was 10, and they think I'm a bit too much sometimes. You know, I have to learn how to keep my mouth closed and listen to them, because they have their very traditional ways of looking at things, and they think, well, you know, I don't tell them half the things I do because it's too much, it's too exciting. But you're going to have a very exciting time. That's your destiny. But, you know, other people don't want to live that kind of life. And sometimes it's difficult when you're unusual in that way or unconventional, because people that are very tied to their set ideas can be quite, what's the word, envious and unkind, you know, but you can't help it. You're very free thinking, very open to all kinds of ideas, and that's what your life is going to be, basically. Also, money. I did have a look at that, and now you're going to be getting frustrated with me because I'm trying to work out when that's going to expand. And I think, yes, that's right. I had a look at Jupiter, the transit of Jupiter, and I think that the next 2.5 years are going to be your time for consolidation, tidying up, really setting your ideas and working out what you can do, what you can't do. And 2.5 years, you come out of that period, and that's when the money starts to come in a big way. So that's nice. And probably if I speak to you again, I'll be able to see a lot more. But I thought, well, that's enough for now. And I'm interested, you're smiling, so it must be working. You must be thinking, that's strange. She's right about me. But isn't it interesting? Because I looked at what you sent me about me, and I didn't really understand all those boxes and crosses and all the things that you've done. But I did see that I had a lot of Piscean energy. And in my Placidean horoscope, the one that I've done, I've got a Pisces ascendant and I've got Neptune conjunct the moon, which is very Piscean. But there's a lot of Aries in my chart. And yet I do feel very Piscean. So I think that the Vedic angle of looking at astrology and my angle, they're not right or wrong. They just have it's almost like you're slicing a cake or something, but you're not slicing it this way, you're slicing it across. So you see one layer and I see another, but we're talking about the same person. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've thought of it that way.
Yeah. So what you have said in the key is like, it's actually exactly like one thing. Mother is actually connected to me, like my teacher, like my spiritual teacher. She's the mother. She made me to, I mean, she opened up my mind. She was the student of Nataraja Guru, and I got lucky to spend a long years with her. She's like,
are you saying, hold on, are you saying that this is your sister?
No, she's my teacher.
Oh, right. Who's been like a mother?
Amma. I mean, it's like you know, spiritual teacher, spiritual guru.
But it's interesting because, you know, I have a granddaughter who is a quarter Indian. You know, her dad's family come from Kerala. And I think they call their grandmother Amma. So I suppose that's also grandma plus a very special grandma, is it? A spiritual grandma?
No, this is like Gurukul is there. It's a system of schooling in India. It is an Indian way of schooling, Gurukul. Like rather than that of a pedagogical style of education system, it's mostly the education system is pedagogical. like there will be a content, people will go through the content and grab so many information into their head, and but it won't be producing wisdom. It's just information which we have grabbed from so many sources. And that that no, no, not even information, it is just data. Okay, data which we are collecting from outside, and we are keeping it inside, and producing information. Does it, when it bounce back, the information which we have produced from the data, when it is bounced back, is it giving a sweetness to my life or not? If it is giving a sweetness to my life, it's actually means it's wise decision. It's wise, it's wisdom. If it is bouncing back in it a wrong way, which means that I am actually messing up my life. So this is the pedagogical style of education, like so much of information. So rather
I
than that
see.
of that is relate there, as I understood, there is two kind of thinking. One is relative thinking, and there is absolute thinking also. So relative
Yeah.
thinking, we think, we relate ourselves with the things which around us. Absolute thinking, we uh, we give sense to the things which is surrounding us, respect to I. So this is absolute thinking, and the other one is relative thinking. So the Gurukul kind of system of education system is like, it's more giving importance to absolute thinking, who you are, what you are, how to take it out. So my amma, I mean the my second mother, my biological mother, is actually helped me to go through a lot of troubles in my life, like financial situations and things like that, where I gone out from the corporate job and looking for something else that time, and all my mother has helped me. And this mother, she has actually opened up my mind and made me to think more freely, like rather than that of making ideas based on other people's understanding about the world. Rather than that of, we can actually, I mean, I am a being, I have a being, everybody will be having that beingness. So what happened, the power has gone.
Oh, you disappeared. There you are.
Yeah. So I was speaking about my mother, like,
Yeah.
so my spiritual teacher, she is a mother. I consider her as my mother. So
Yeah.
she has very much importance in my life, and my mother also. And I believe this universe is a mother, and that is the reason I worship Kali. So that is why my favorite deity is Kali. So mother is so much important in my life. So that
But Carly is quite a scary mother as well.
a bit scary, but but that is the, I mean, Kali like her kids to be like mm, Veera, like she don't like a shy female, shy male. He don't get into fight. He don't run for. Uh, she don't like the men who is not a go-getter.
Yeah. Because I know she has many arms and she's
Yeah,
holding food and she's holding books and she's holding all these things. And it's like, no, well, there you are. Look, there's that wonderful thing. No, you can't have it because you've not been good. That's how
yeah,
I think of Bali. Um, yeah, it's interesting because you've got this amazing Jupiter and Moon conjunct. So I'm not surprised that you talk in that way because I think you're also a very emotionally generous person because of the influences that you've had that you're describing. You know, um, it's a really nice placement of Jupiter that you have in your chart. So congratulations on that one.
and my father, he allowed me to go in the way which I like to go. That is that is very much important. Like he didn't put me into any kind of conditioning in my whatever I done. So that also very
Absolutely.
much important for me, and that is
Yeah.
also what you have describing is in that way. It is very correct. Then about the relationship, the women, like yeah, I have a lot of women in my life. Like they are friends, girlfriends. So I enjoy the company of women because more than that of the men who helps me in my life is actually women.
Yeah.
um I don't know, maybe because of the mother Kali is coming in that way, in that particular moment. I see the goddess in them, um that is
Mm.
how I see them. Like they are helping me. I mean, yeah, but I don't know whether it will make a problem in my life or whatever. But I have, I mean, I, I have a lot of relationship with the. I mean, not sexually. I have a
No.
emotional relationship or
Yeah.
so many things with women actually. Like more than that of
Yeah.
the men. My best friends also women actually, not
Yeah.
men. So in that way, that is also
Oh,
correct. Okay.
the other thing that I didn't say was because in Western astrology, if you have Uranus and Venus combined, like I have too, then you get involved with technology and TV and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I have, when I was in your age, I worked in a place where there were a lot of TV personalities coming to the place where I worked. And then that went away. And then I went through the phase where I was an astrologer on TV. And I didn't make any effort at all. I just met a woman who gave me a telephone number, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll do some work. And I rang the number, and 5 weeks later, I was on television. It was easy, it just fell into it. And now I'm talking to this man in Denmark who's starting this big TV company globally to bring about, change in the world. And I can see you having those kind of opportunities as well. But it's not all the time, because it's Uranus. Uranus is suddenly it arrives, suddenly it goes away. But it's okay, it's exciting. You meet interesting people. Um, so, in fact, today I heard from the man in Denmark. He sent me a message on Skype, and he said, oh, thank you for doing this work for him. And then he said, would I do an interview with him? And then I was going to talk to him when we next speak about you and what you're doing and all that kind of thing. So I think you're going to be effortlessly lucky with technology and TV and things like that. It's just going to come into your life, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
But it
technology,
doesn't mean to say you'll be famous. It's because you don't want to be famous. That's not the point.
yeah, it's like the basically why I started is like the astrology reading of the podcast which I'm doing is because it's like a reference library of people's life.
Yeah.
It's people are getting caught up in their own mind. They are thinking only one dimension which they can go to, but they think they are the center, but that is not the truth. I mean, there are a lot of people which are same like us, and they are not getting caught up in their own head. And I mean, there is freedom is possible. I mean, freedom don't come from the government is changing or politicians are changing or politics is changing or you are getting so much money. That and all doesn't make freedom. Freedom comes from
No.
within. Within that freedom, the sense of freedom is from inside. It's
And
not.
also, I think, yeah, I agree. And I think it's also the ability to be able to think for yourself.
Huh.
So you're not following like a sheep. You're thinking, I don't know about that idea. There are always going to be people that have different ideas. So we don't have to be making everybody follow our idea because we have a separate thought. But, you know, it's important for people like you and me to have independent thought and not be caught up in what other people are expecting, shall we say.
Yeah, that is one thing. So once we are following our own idea, the important thing is like just to make sure that your idea is not harming the other directly.
Precisely.
For instance, the terrorist, they are following their own idea, but they are killing people. The stupidity, you know, you don't have to do that. And you believe that raping is very good for you, so you go out and rape all the women. That's not, that is not the freedom, you know.
Well, you know, about 2,500 years ago, Plato, you know, he was a Greek philosopher, he said there is no freedom without responsibility.
Yeah,
There is
exactly.
no freedom without... 6 words, well worth thinking about in the year 2020. If a man 2,500 years ago said that, there must be some truth in it. And in the modern world, we're forgetting all this ancient wisdom, things that people were talking about thousands of years ago. And that's what I think we need to think about for the world, is not I want my freedom, but I want to be able to freely think and discuss my freely thoughts, if you understand me, and then be able to liaise, join, debate with other people to reach a compromise. That's the responsible way of being free, you know.
Yes.
So I'm a great fan of Plato. I'd be his girlfriend if I lived 2,500 years ago. I'd get married to Plato. If I could find him. I suppose I'd find him in Athens somewhere with a scroll in his hand, and I'd say, I've come back from the future to meet you.
If there is a time machine, you could have gone to the figure out the Plato. But the thing is, like, philosophers won't make so much of money, you know, what others are doing. That is not the problem.
And yesterday I was talking, because I'm also a therapist, a psychotherapist, and I was speaking to a doctor yesterday. He's a Sikh and he comes from India, but he works as a doctor in England. And he's had some problems, and he was talking to me about this on a professional level. And we were actually talking about what's happening in India now. And we had a really interesting think about that, because how can I can't talk about confidential things, but what I can say is that I know there are Indian women now who are, especially in the middle classes. I'd be interested to hear what you say about this, because this is what's happening to Indian women in England. They are getting very, very, I call it the Disney princess thought. You know, so they say to their husbands, you're not telling me what to do, I'm telling you what to do. You will give me this money, I am your wife, I expect this money, and I want to buy these designer handbags, go on these holidays, have this kind of car. And it is totally not what they're supposed to be doing. And they're forgetting. So then all of a sudden they'll say, oh, well, I'm going to drive my Mercedes to the Sikh temple because, you know, I'm feeling really unhappy, and therefore I need to ask for help. And so they're bouncing between their Mercedes and their designer handbag and the Sikh temple and back again. And it's not just Sikh women, it's Hindu women as well. and it's a real muddle for them. And it's something to do with what's happening in India, I think, that women are saying, you don't treat me like that anymore, you know, I'm equal to you. But it's become this kind of horrible imbalance, and they haven't reached an equilibrium. Do you understand what I'm saying about this? Do you see that in India yourself?
Like, in India, there is a culture like, um, woman is not given that sort of freedom, which is like that in whatever the Europe is being given to the women. Indian
Ah,
women
so
don't.
that must be. So
Yeah.
what happens is when Indian women come to live here, they have this idea that this is how English women live,
Hmm.
and therefore I am living like this. I'm in England now. You can't tell me what to do. I want this, I want that. And it's a little bit crazy, because in reality, most English women are living a fairly ordinary life. You know, they're not buying designer things, and well, they don't have the money. So I just think it's an interesting thing that's happening in the world, because the wealth is moving further east now, and the economy in India is picking up, from what I hear. And I think there's going to be a movement in India that moves more towards material things, and that isn't going to be the best way to go, but it's like it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's quite
See,
complicated what I'm
the
thinking.
thing is like I have spoken to two interesting peoples in my life. One thing is like when somebody called Betsy. I have her podcast in my thing. She has produced two movies, and she's from US actually. And she has wrote two books. One is the one book is called the an autobiography of an orgasm, and Beyond Awe. So two books she has wrote, and it's all about her journey to figure out a man who can actually fill her. Okay, so she has wrote about that, and she has wrote that book. Okay, fine. That is one thing. Um, so she is saying that the women, I mean the women from the Europe, I mean the liberal countries, will be actually looking for a men who can fill themselves. Okay, that is one thing. And another thing, there is movies has came up in India which plots Kama Sutra. Okay, that movie is banned in India. And I have spoken to one guy who does the adult, who works with the adult industry. He does things like that, and the largest consumers of his production is from India.
Oh, how interesting.
See, the
Mm.
data, I'm not talking about the people what they are saying. I'm talking about the data. Okay, like
Yes. Yeah.
people's lies. Okay, people say lie, but the data won't, numbers won't lie. It's number. you know so there is kind of suppression in India, which uh, Indian men's, like the women don't have a freedom to come out and experience what they are actually can, because of that, and the cultural bias or whatever which is been suppressing this kind of peoples, and which which is actually making a kind of prevert the people. That is
I was
actually
going to
true.
read you something.
Huh?
I'm just looking down because I'm trying to find something that I read, because I think it describes what Indian women in England are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I can find it. Um, because, so, this guy that I was talking to, he's a doctor, and all his friends that are doctors in the UK, but they're all Indian, they're all getting divorced. Every single one, because their women are just crazy. They've just moved here and they just have this huge expectation, like wonderful meals, parties, amazing clothes. And these poor men are saying, I might earn a lot of money and I'm a doctor, but I just can't do this for you. And the women are saying, but we're in England. This is what you have to do. You have to be a good husband. You have to provide for me. And this is what I expect. It's a very interesting cultural phenomenon, you know, not so funny, you know, it's painful. But it seems a long way away from spirituality. I'm just trying to find some phrases to describe it. Just hold on a minute.
No,
I'm looking for it
spirituality
now.
actually we can only touch our inner core only when we are complete actually, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
When we are finding the peace within, then only we can actually go beyond, you know. Otherwise, yeah, it will be
It,
half cooked spiritual people. It's
yes,
not
right.
actual.
Let me read you something. Okay. Hold on. I'm just looking at some quotes because this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Just give me a moment. Work life without heels. So that's a buzz phrase. It means I'm a woman and I have a job, but I don't need high heels. Work life without heels. Now, for a woman like me, that's what on earth are you talking about? But it's like, boom, I'm a working woman and I don't have to wear high heels. What else is there? I might come up with another one in a minute. It's a description of somebody, you know, that would be a Western idea of how a woman needs to be. It's not what a Western woman is, but it's what a perception is. Okay, so it's like I'm untamed, I'm self-proclaimed, I'm a warrior. To me, this is meaningless, totally meaningless. It has no depth at all. But it's something that's, I think I might have to blame America for this, because there are so many books that are coming out now about how women can empower themselves and, you know, be punchy and driven and without heels. And actually that's not how it is, because I have been that woman, you know, and it's really, really hard. It's hard work. It requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of sacrifice. It's very, very hard because you're working and yet you're not a man. And it isn't glamorous at all. But do you see what I mean? There's this whole idea that you come here and, oh my God, I can be this woman. And this idea doesn't actually take in account of the fact that if you want to be a professional woman in any country in the world, you have to be educated and you have to know a lot of things and study a lot of things. And then if you're lucky, you'll get to where you want to be, you know, but it doesn't just happen because you write something on social media or because your husband earns a lot of money. You know, it has to come from within for your own personal journey, you know. And it's extra hard for women, extra hard, because they're usually the ones that end up looking after the children, even in the modern world, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think there's still a lot of confusion in the world about the place of women. And when I was young, we had people like Germaine Greer. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's a professor at Oxford University, and she's an amazing speaker. She wrote a book called The Female Eunuch, and it was a bestseller. And she's never been married. She's very kind of liberal and free thinking and very wise. And she says marriage is the worst slavery, really, if you really think about it. But the world hasn't changed because of her, unfortunately, and women are still very second to men in most of the world, including England. And so it isn't a case of just coming to live here, marrying a rich man, and just not having to wear heels. If only it was that easy, you know. And maybe women like me have had a chance to see what the world of men is like. Whoops. Oh, you've disappeared. Hang on. Are you still there? Yes.
Yeah.
Suddenly you disappeared. Yeah, so I think to be a man in the world, a professional man, is really, really hard. It's really hard. You know, it's not okay for them. It's hard. So that's my little rant.
Okay, so coming to the writing part, which you were speaking about in my chart, actually, I thought of making. I mean, I have started a book which in which I'm including the podcast, some 2 to 3 podcasts of what I am speaking. 2 to 3 podcasts which I feel like important, and the transcript of that into a collection of book, a small book of a tantric book which will actually helps people to understand different point of view. And I have written that. I mean, a transcript I have collected and editing that, like punctuation and stuffs like that, which is in a transcript. I mean the
Yeah.
podcast transcript. So that also true. And whatever you have came up with um, uh, yeah, I'm agreeing to that. Whatever you were reading, which is actually quite
Yeah, I think there's going to be more writing for you in the
yeah.
next couple of years. Definitely. And I'm already, well, you know, I said to you, I'm moving into a similar phase. I can feel it already. I mean, it doesn't start until February or the end of January for me, but I can feel it. I can feel it coming. I just want to close my doors and maybe not answer the phone so much and just get on with it, you know. Can you feel it already? That's what you want to do?
I mean, I'm right now. I'm isolated. Like if my life, if I think back, I most of the time I like to live alone. You know, because I'm not able to relate with the peoples which I'm living with. It's not that easy. Quite easy. That kind of peoples I can get into is very rarely happens. Some very few peoples I meet in my life which I can actually talk to. Even I can actually talk to. There is very few people. That's why I came into internet, you know, at least hoping to figure out somebody who I can actually talk to, you know. Uh,
You know what I see you as, because you've got Saturn in the 12th house in your chart. It's what I call a lonely warrior. So these people always walk alone. Now that's the difference between you and me. I'm not always like that. I'm just going into a cycle of being like that. But you are permanently like it. Because I said to you, you know, you need to shut out the world. But actually, yeah, you're a lonely warrior. I don't know if you want me to say any more about that. But I have a friend, for example, she has Saturn in the 12th house like you, but she also has Jupiter in the 5th house, which is absolutely the opposite. So what she does is she'll telephone me and she'll be so funny and such good company that I'll be laughing the whole time I'm speaking to her, half an hour, something like that. and then I might ring her 3 weeks later and she won't answer the phone because she's just moved into the solitary, I'm not engaging with other people mode. And then I just leave her a message and say, you've moved into your lonely warrior bit. Then she comes out and if she goes to a party, everybody says, oh my God, she's like the center of the party. Then she goes back. Now you're not like her. You're just more, no, I'm separate. And actually, I think for you, it's like there's a dance going on around you. Human beings, they're all dancing around, and you're observing it from a distance and kind of going, okay, I'm not really in that. And it's because you're a lonely warrior. You're alone. That's your place in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, that what you have said is pretty accurate, actually.
Sorry?
What you have said is pretty accurate.
Mm.
So I feel we should see your chart also. Yeah, then we have to compare uh, a single chart into. We have to make one single person's both chart, like Vedic chart also, and you can build a Western version of the same. Then we can actually read and see similarities and differences. I mean, it's a collaborative study which I would like to.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And because it's quietly developed into two continent in two different era, this understanding of the human self and how it's developed.
Yes, because also I was thinking, it's really strange actually, because I was thinking earlier when you were talking, I thought, I could write something with you. That would be a really interesting thing to do, that we do the same chart. Well, not the same chart, the same person, two different charts. What do we both see? It's interesting. I thought it's very interesting when you said about me with my hands. And I was thinking about, now I'm getting older, and what shall I do as I get older? And it did cross my mind that maybe I should start doing that. My hands are quite warm even now. Just to put my hands on people more often, with their permission, obviously. Not just placing them wherever I feel like. So, have you got any more time, or do you want to stop today?
Yeah, we will stopping today, and next thing we will be doing your chart. We have not completed.
Yeah, brilliant.
Chart, yeah?
Just let me know when you have some time, maybe at the weekend or something. Okay.
A couple of days ago, after some couple of days, like 1 or 2 days from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
God bless. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for listening to my podcast. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in, where you could see my contact details, including my phone number, my WhatsApp, and email ID. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes.